Hi, welcome to another episode of Cask Candle, a weekly reflection of what I've learned over the past week, what I've been reminded of, or just needed to hear again in a new way. Today's theme is around consistency. Now, this idea of consistency came to me as I was at the gym earlier this week, and I was just wrapping up my cardio workout on a treadmill. And I was just wiping the machine down, and one of the newer trainers came by and introduced herself and said, "You are an inspiration." She said, "You're here every day and you're sweating and you're working out and you just inspire me." And I said, "Well, thank you." And then she proceeded to ask me, am I training for anything? Am I an athlete, et cetera, et cetera. Now, to all of those questions, the answer is no. I really take the perspective that every time I step into that gym, I want to leave my sweat equity on one of their machines, if not multiple, because I'm working out and making the most out of my money and getting my money's worth out of it. Fast forward 3 days later, just yesterday, as I was sitting outside on hold on a phone call outside the gym, a separate trainer walked by, and we both acknowledged each other since we had seen each other there countless times. And he just nodded his head and said, "You are so consistent, like probably one of the most consistent people who come to this gym, hands down." And I said, well, thank you. But this idea of consistency really struck me this week just based on those two instances. It made me even think about the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. If you haven't read it, it's a really good book. And in one of those chapters, he talks about this idea of the 10,000 hour rule. And from various research that he references, he mentions that it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert in anything. And in this case, they were referencing hockey players. But just imagine that for a moment. 10,000 hours to be an expert in anything. Not just good, not just average, but an expert. But to even do 10,000 hours, or hell, 1,000 hours, takes consistency. It takes our ability to show up every day and try something new. It takes our ability and willingness to have a goal and say, you know what, I'm going to test, break, fail, and try it again. And we're going to show up. For me, in my experience this past week, it reflected in me showing up at the gym and how I show up at the gym. Now, I may only have, out of 100% energy level that day, I may only have 50%. But damn it, I'm going to give the 100% of that 50% I can. Because I'm showing up for my health. I'm showing up for me. And I want to walk out of there exhausted, regardless of what that looks like. For this 10,000 hour rule. Like, I'm not trying to be an expert in health. Like, I'm just trying to live a longer life. But I am trying to be a better coach. I'm trying to be a leader. I'm trying to be a better partner. I'm trying to be a better friend. This idea of consistency, of what we do and where we put our time, both physically, spiritually, mentally, is so fleeting. You see, we look around at people and say, they're attractive from a physical standpoint, keeping that narrative. That, wow, they're sexy. Well, my significant other and I were joking one day and said, this sexy is in the consistency of how someone shows up and how they rest, what they eat, how they work out, and the levels and the time that they put in every single day, every single week. You can even fast forward that to organizations where 70 to 80% of change fails. Well, it doesn't take much to see where is the consistency. Where is this consistency to lead, to engage, to communicate, to understand your stakeholders, to develop, And keep doing that. Test, break, fix, and it does not stop. One of the greatest things that we have to keep in mind in this idea of consistency, it's not that it isn't simple. It's just that it's not easy. You see, simple is the ideology of the how. I was like, oh, it's pretty simple to be a good leader. It's like, here are the attributes, blah, 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 blah. To be healthy, yeah, just look it up. Here are the processes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But what's hard, what is not easy, is to do it consistently, every single day. When you don't want to. And the difference is so subtle, but is so profound. I like to use the analogy with those who I'm coaching. It's the difference between planning for a wedding versus being prepared and working for the marriage. The wedding's the event. Oh, we can get you to the event. That's not the issue. Like that's simple. What's hard is the marriage. Because you have to choose every single day to be consistent. To show up in that relationship. To listen. To be transparent. If you're a leader, how are you showing up every single day? Communicating, engaging, influencing, listening. Being proactive, taking accountability, driving accountability. How are we showing up to increase our own fulfillment? Creating greater meaning, searching for that new job. How are we expanding? It's something we have to think about and do every single day. Now, to be fair, it's hard to keep that same level of energy every single day on every single thing. Some days you're going to be the bug. Some days you're going to be the windshield. Some days you're going to be walking. Some days you're going to be sprinting. But it is about being consistent. It's about putting it top of mind. Whatever it is, whatever you're being asked to do or what you are asking yourself to do in particular. You know, going back to organizations for a moment, it doesn't take much for me to understand or know where someone's going to fail, where a leader is going to fail, where a project is going to fail. All I have to do is look at your routines, look at the routines that are there, because it tells me what you or the organization places an emphasis on. It tells me your ceiling and it tells me your floor. It tells me where the success is going to be. It also tells me where our failures are going to also show themselves. The same with an individual I'm coaching. It's, what did you do today? What did you do this week? In these 167 hours outside of our time together, where did you put your time? And none of it's right or wrong. None of it's good or bad. It does tell me where you've placed your energy and where you were most consistent this past week. And over time, there become themes, right? It becomes our own narrative, our own pattern. But as we look to evolve, as we look to be better leaders, better partners, better individuals, getting a new job, building new capabilities, expanding, being more mindful, being a better husband, being a better wife, father, mother. Look back to where you have placed your consistency of behavior. What is consistent about what you're feeling, your attunement to yourself, your anxieties, your happiness. What is consistent about how you're thinking? Any negative talk? Where does your mind dart to that is most important, that distracts you from being present? But Because that consistency is truly going to be your demarcation of your defined success. And success isn't always about what you've achieved, as in a positive, like, oh, I made all this money, or I got a new job, or I have this happy, wonderful relationship. It's literally what you do every day, and it can sometimes be a reflection of what you didn't get. Why you don't have money, why you don't have a very healthy relationship, why you're maybe a poor leader, why your changes consistently fail. Because your focus has been on other things. On that job title, on that car, on that fictitious movie-related relationship. Because we're planning for the wedding and not the marriage. We think sexy is just arrived at versus the consistency necessary to work out every day, to eat healthy, to drink a lot of water, to get our sleep. We think the titles that we receive at our jobs are the epicenter of who we are defined by versus the happiness of being able to influence and really impact others, to live with meaning and purpose. I ask you, what are you consistent about? Where can you build greater consistency so that you leave your sweat equity in that moment, on that treadmill, in your life, on the other person, so that they know that you were there? And that's truly the art and the definition of any success.